Hi, so I am Ajahn Phai and we back to the microeconomics theory 2 class. In this chapter 2, it is about firms in a perfect competitive market, okay? So in this chapter, we will first talk about market characters, like what is a perfectly competitive market, and then we will move into firms' behavior, like if firms are in perfectly competitive market, how will they behave? And after that, we will go into market outcome, okay? So, what is a perfectly competitive market? So, in economics, in microeconomics, we believe that there are 4 types of markets in general. So, the first type of the market we call a monopoly market. So, the idea is if in a market there is only one firm, okay, only one firm, it doesn't matter why, that market is automatically considered as a monopoly. And we have seen this in real life. Like for example, you will see that tap water, okay, in one area, in one city, there is usually just one firm providing the service for tap water. So yes, that very simple, one firm in one market, a monopoly. So the second type of the market is oligopoly. So in the oligopoly market, the condition is there must be a few firms in the market. So again, it doesn't matter why there are only a few firms, or those few firms sell the same or differentiated product. If a market has a few firms providing goods and services, we call it oligopoly. Classic example for this are, for example, we have phone service. So in each country or in each city, you usually just see a few providers for phone service, right? In the case of Thailand, we would have the key player as AIS, True, DTAC, and 3 firms in the market and oligopoly market. There's always like a question like how many firms are considered a few firms. So there is no answer to that. It really depends on the interaction between those firms. Okay, if they have they interact as interdependents. So basically, if whenever a AIS make a decision, it depends on the DTAC and True decisions. Like they take into account everyone's decision to make their own decisions. If you will see competition like that, then we consider an oligopoly market. Okay, we will go into very deep detail of monopoly and oligopoly later in later chapters. The third and the fourth type of markets are competitive market, but there are 2 types of competitive market, okay? Monopolistic and perfectly competitive market. So the word competitive, it comes from the fact that in a market there are so many firms, okay? So there must be many firms to compete with each other for us to call them competitive. And if there are many firms and all those firms sell differentiated product. So think about brand names, okay? So we can have many firms producing handbags, right? So many brands, but they are not the same. And they can set price a little within their own brand, okay? So books, movies, so there are so many of them, but then different from each other. So basically, all the brands can be considered as like substitutable. If I don't use this brand of handbag, I can use another brand of handbag. However, consumer do perceive like different product in different brand, okay? The fourth type of market, it is perfectly competitive market. So there must be many firms in the market, and not only that, all the firms sell the exact same product we usually consider um, some agricultural markets as perfectly competitive. Okay, it should be noted that these are a very rough categorization of markets. Sometimes it's really hard to say like whether or not market is monopolistic or perfect because like how identical is identical, right? Not only that, perfectly competitive market also require many other conditions, okay? But the idea is this. We have 4 market structures ranging from no competition at all because you are the only firm, there is no competition. A little bit competition because you start to have a few firms, and then more competitive as there are many firms, but then each of the firms still have small market power in their own brand because consumers perceive their product as differentiated. And the 4th one, perfectly competitive market where there is no competition, no market power at all, perfect competition, everyone compete, okay? So in this class, we going to go market by market. We would see, because all the firms will behave differently in all this market, starting with perfect competition. So key characteristic. If I want to know if this market is a perfectly competitive market or not, how do I know, right? The easiest one is like you check the key characteristic. So we say that the 2 main characteristics is you have a large number of buyers and sellers. Okay, not only that the market must have many firms, it must also have many buyers. Okay, and all those firms and buyers must be trading homogeneous product. Okay, so identical product. And if you think about like how can a market have so many buyers and sellers, another characteristic must come in, right? If a market has many sellers, so it means that anyone must be able to enter the market. Because if the government say that if you would like to sell phone services, you need to bid from the government, okay, and get the permission, right? The permit. In that case, we call it barrier to entry. Not everyone can enter. You must have an auction. You must bid into like ability to enter the market. So in that case, you would not see so many players in the market, right? So in order for a perfectly competitive market to have a lot of firms and buyers, one condition must be true. There must be no barriers to entry or exit. Okay? So anyone who would like to come into the market must be able to. And barrier to exit is simpler than that because usually any firms, if you don't make profit in the long run, you can just exit, okay? So barriers to entry allow firms and buyers to come trade in the market. No barrier to entry condition, so that there are many buyers and sellers in the market and they sell homogeneous product. So in addition to the 3 main characteristic of competitive market, for a market to be to have like perfect competition, there are actually additional characteristics, including perfect information. What does it mean, perfect information? So suppose that we say that in the perfectly competitive market, there are so many buyers and so many sellers, right? And there's also identical product. But if consumer or buyers cannot understand the quality of the product, it's possible, right? Think about second-hand car market. If as a consumer, when there are so many sellers for second-hand cars, Do you know which car is a good car or which car is a bad car if you're not a mechanic? So if you're not an engineer who understands car, you just can't understand the product. If you go see doctors, okay? If you go see doctors, do you know which doctor is the best doctor? So basically, even if all the firms sell homogeneous or identical product, if consumer can't understand that it's the same, okay, then it's not a perfectly competitive market. We need a perfect information condition, which means that the buyers know everything, like the quality, the price, and everything. The sellers also know everything, like the quality of buyers or the price or everything. Okay, so there must be perfect information flow. Nobody should have a hidden information that other people do not have in the market. Number two, no externalities. So basically, for a market to be perfectly competitive market, the cost that occur to the firms should all the costs that the firms create must fall onto the firms, and the benefit that consumer get must fall onto consumers. What does it mean? It means that if I am a firm and then I can produce, I have a factory to produce, for example, sugar, and if my factory creates a lot of air pollution, or I let go of like the bad water, like the polluted water into the river, it means that my firms now create cost to the society, right? For example, like those environmental costs to the society. However, those costs do not fall onto the firm. So if I pollute the air and some of people get sick from polluted air and have to go to see a doctor and pay for asthma or whatever. So those people pay for the medical bill by themselves. The firms don't have to. We call that an externality, the cost that the firm creates, but do not have to pay. So yes, for a market to be perfectly competitive market, another condition would be no externalities in the problem. The third one is zero transaction costs. So basically, all the transaction in the market has to be costless. Okay, so for that, so that you think about like how every firm compete with each other, right? And if there are transaction costs, then it could be barrier to having perfectly competitive market as well, okay? Perfect factor mobility has to do with the resource, the ability to acquire resource of each firm, okay? Because if workers or if machines can't be transferred across firms, or that is not competitive in the factor of production, in the factor of productions market, then it leads to a non-competitive in the good market as well. And of course, for when we model perfectly competitive market, sometimes we gonna model it as a free market as well. So basically, there would be no government intervention. Okay. So why do we care about all this? Mainly, with different conditions, okay, with the different market structure, different conditions, firms will behave differently. So, for example, if a market is perfectly competitive, the firm will behave one way. But if the market have imperfect information, then firm will behave differently. If the firm has market power, as the firm becomes like a monopoly, firm will behave differently. Okay? So given the same cost structure that a firm have, if they face different market structure, they will behave differently, and we care because different firm behavior will lead to different market outcome. Okay, so if in a perfectly competitive market, we have this is the market outcome. Okay, like essentially when you understand how buyers make decisions and derive a demand curve, understand how firms make decisions and derive the supply curve, which we will do. Okay, eventually the market outcome will be that 15 units of output will be sold in this market at $30. Okay, think about it. Suppose that firm is a monopoly, not in a competitive market. Do you think that the result will be the same? Would people be able to buy the product at $30? Probably not, right? If you have a market power, you probably will charge higher. So that's it. That's why we care. Because different market structures, you end up with different market outcome, and sometimes consumers are happy, sometimes consumers are not happy, sometimes firms are happy, sometimes firms are not happy, and then when we combine, when we analyze the outcome onto everyone in the society, we can arrive is this market outcome good or bad to the entire society? Okay. So that is market structure and why it is important for us to understand. Now, we will get into the second part of the chapter, which is given that we have a perfectly competitive market, if you think about all the conditions that we just mentioned, no real market is perfectly competitive, okay? Perfectly competitive market is very much like an ideal market. We do think that some agricultural products such as soybean, banana, stuff like that can be very close to perfectly competitive market, but not exactly, okay? So, given that suppose that we have a perfectly competitive market, how would firms in that market make decisions? Okay? So, in neoclassical economics, we have this one assumptions of rationality. So the way microeconomists model a person decision, they do it in two steps. We need to know if I would like to model a firm decision, I need to know what is the firm objective. Okay? This is modeling a decision. Number one, I need to know what you want so that I can guess what you may do, right? And number two, you assume that a rational firm will make decision to reach that objective. Okay? So yes, in reality, firms may have so many objectives, but for the simplicity, we're just gonna assume that all the firms in this class will have an objective to maximize profit, okay? So we are not talking about non-profit organization that want to improve the society well-being. No, okay? We're just gonna talk about regular firms who want profit. So that's the objective. And then we always, in this class, will assume rationality assumption. So in economics, we say that a person or a firm is rational if they make any decisions at all to reach that objective. So if I would like to understand how many units of output will a firm sell in the market, the answer is whatever unit that maximize the firm's profit. Okay? And how much would be the price that the firm set? The answer is whatever price that maximize the firm profit. Can you see that? That's very logical, right? So that's why we call it rationality assumptions. It's very important because if you have to predict someone's behavior and that someone is so not rational, if I wake up in the morning and toss a coin to determine whether or not I open my factory today, then there is no way that us economists can predict any behavior. Okay, so in order for us to build a model to explain someone's behavior, that someone should at least be rational. Okay, so it doesn't matter what the market structure is. All firms that we're gonna model in this class want to maximize profit, and the profit function is very simple. Okay, so the profit function equals to the total revenue and total cost. So the revenue side is basically like how much money will customer spend on your product and what would be your revenue from that. Okay, so the total revenue would depend very much on the demand, because if there is a high demand, people willing to pay more for your product, then your revenue is big. And total cost is like how much you have to put into producing the product. So it depends on your production technology. Okay, so we gonna also assume that we're not gonna talk very much about the cost function or anything. We're just gonna assume like production technology. So suppose that the firm has this total cost function, and then if the market demand change, how would the firm react into like decisions? Okay, we'll go into very much detail in that. So one thing to be noted is that now we already assume perfectly competitive market. Firm is profit maximizing. Firm still gonna make different decisions in the long run and in the short run. Okay, so we should discuss like what is short run and what is long run. So in economics, we would see a lot of vocabularies, right? And it should be noted that those words like rational here is a technical term. So it means that in English, rational, it just means logical, right? But in economics, a rational person must make decision to reach their objective. See, we have a technical term with meaning more specific than just regular English, short run and long run too, okay? So in economics, okay, when a firm produce something, the firm will face two types of costs, okay? The firm have to produce something, the firm will have two types of input. Number one, we have what we call fixed input. And number two is variable input as a factor of production. Okay, so what are they? So fixed inputs are the input that the firm cannot change the quantity. Okay, so basically when you say fixed input, it's fixed quantity, can't change the quantity, it's fixed. Variable input are the one that you can change the quantity, okay, not fixed. So basically, suppose that today is like a festival or something, right? And you are a restaurant, so you have so many customers. What would you like to do to maximize your profit? You would like to allow more people to come into your restaurant and serve more food, basically increase your quantity of output, right? However, the question is, can you because you have one restaurant building, okay? Can you expand your building today just because it's festival? You cannot, okay? You used to have one building yesterday, you're still gonna have one building today. So the building is considered a fixed input. No matter how much you wish that you can accommodate more customer, you can't, okay? So the building considered a fixed input, you can't change the quantity with the demand. However, your restaurant can serve more, say, fried chicken, right? Those are variable input. You know that tomorrow would be a festival, there would be more consumer. What would you do? You buy more chicken. So the fact that you can expand the amount of your chicken in response to the change in demand, chicken are considered variable inputs, okay? So in the short run, it's a time period that is short, not long enough. So there exists, so in the short run, there exists both fixed and variable inputs, okay? So in the short run, you have both fixed and variable input, okay? But in the long run, it's long, right? It's the period of time that is long enough for you to change the quantity of your output, your input. So basically, the period that is long enough for you to acquire a new building, expand your restaurant, having a franchise or whatever. So in the long run, you only have variable input, no more fixed input, okay? The short run period that is too short, you can't change the quantity of some input. Long run period of time that is long enough for you to change the quantity of all inputs, okay? As simple as that. And what would be the period of time that you can consider a long run? Like, is 1 month a long run or a short run? So think about that. Can we say that? Okay? Because in the end, 1 month for some businesses, like a small restaurant, it's probably already a long run because in 1 month, you probably can expand everything, find a new building or whatever, okay? But 1 month might be a short run, consider short run for some businesses. Like if you're gonna build like a car factory, you probably cannot acquire all the inputs in 1 month. So how much time make it a long run? Really gonna depends on the businesses, okay? And yes, firm make different decisions in the short run and in the long run. So in the short run, the key is it has fixed input, okay? So you already rent that one building for your restaurant. The contract is 12 months, so suppose, okay? So in the short run, even someday there would be no customer at all. So example would be like if you rent a building to sell food in a university, right? And that would be like a summer break. And in those summer breaks, there would not be too much customer. Okay, the question is, should you just exit the market or give up your business entirely just because there is no customer for a few days? So the answer is, you can't even you want to, right? Because you already paid for the building and everything. The fixed input is fixed. So all you can do is what we call shut down, okay? So in the short run, shut down means that you temporarily close your restaurant for a few days or even a few months, but your business still there, okay? When the first semester comes, you will reopen your restaurant. So in the short run, you can't leave the market, still some fixed input, you can only shut down. And therefore, the decisions to be made in the short run are in two folds. The first decision is tomorrow, should I produce or shut down? Should I open my restaurant? Okay. And the second stage of the decision is if I decide to open my restaurant, if I decide to produce, how many units of output should I produce? Okay. Step 1, open or not open restaurant. Step 2, if I open, how many fried chicken should I be preparing? Okay. In the long run, on the other hand, there is no more fixed input. So in the long run, the decision to be made is, are you going to stay in the business? Or if you cannot make any profit in the long run, it would just make sense to just exit the market, okay? Exit the market means like going bankrupt, go out of business, no longer doing this business, okay? And in the second stage of decision making, the question is, if you stay, okay, how many units of output should you be producing? Okay, so yes, this is the key difference between short run and long run. Have or not have fixed costs, and therefore, in the short run, you can only shut down if you don't make money. In the long run, you can exit if you don't make money. And those already are key to different decision making for firms. So yes, to summarize, shutdown is like a temporary not produced. Quantity of production would be 0 for a few period of time, not permanent. Exit is leaving the market. The quantity would be 0 forever, okay? So let us look at the firm's decision in the short run first, okay, in this part A. As I said before, we just only gonna have one objective for firm, which is maximizing profit, okay? So in doing that, we need to understand the revenue side and the cost side, okay? Because firms would like higher profit. It can be done by increasing revenue with respect to the cost, okay? And as I said before, that the revenue side of the firm depends on the demand for goods and services in the market, right? So from the demand. So suppose that this is the market, okay? So this is the market. And in that market, there is demand and supply just like this. And this is the equilibrium quantity, and this is the equilibrium price. Okay. But, so this is the market demand, right? Not everyone that want to buy, say, banana. Suppose this is the market for banana. Not everyone in the market that would like to buy banana will buy from you. Okay, you are just a firm, just a small firm in a perfectly competitive market. So this is you, this is the market, okay? Not everyone. So basically, you do not face a firm, do not face a market demand. So the firms will only face the one firm demand. So what does the firm demand look like? Okay, what does the firm demand look like? If you would like to know what the firm demand look like, go back to the definition of demand. Demand is the quantity of output that consumer want to buy from me at a given price, right? So this is my firm, okay? This is my firm. So if I set price at a price higher than P1, so this is the market price right now, right? I am a new firm setting up my own company, and I set price higher than P1. How many units of output will consumer buy from me? It would be 0, right? Let me show this to you. So suppose that we have a market for banana. Big Q. Market demand, market supply. And suppose the banana is now, say, $6, and there are 10 millions sold in the market, okay? So this is my firm. This is my firm. I can produce small amount of output, and this is the market price, right? And this is the price that I would like to set, okay? So suppose that I set price at $7, right? I'm deriving the demand that the firm is facing. How many units of output will customer buy from me? It would be 0, right? Because this is a perfectly competitive market. It means that everyone else sell it at $6. So if I sell it at 7, nobody will buy from me. Okay? Nobody will buy from me. What happens if I set my price at $5? What happens if I set my price at $5? Think about it. If I set any price lower than $6, everyone will buy from me. Like the $10 million that buy banana will buy from me, right? My demand would be infinity, okay? Would be infinity or close to infinity, basically 10 millions, like comparing to me being a very small firm and my limitation into producing product is pretty much that. So that's why the demand look like this. So this is my firm's demand. It's perfectly elastic, okay? It is perfectly elastic. If I change my price up a little, my demand fall to 0. If I change my price down a little, my demand go to infinity. In the end, this is the demand facing me. This is the demand facing the entire market, okay? It's not the same. So the key to understand firm's behavior is to understand what exactly demand the firm is facing, because this will lead to the revenue, right? Because if there's a lot of demand, it leads to a lot of revenue. So one thing to be noted is, so if you are a firm in a perfectly competitive market, in the end, you will charge price at $6, okay? You will charge price at $6, and the fact that you having a perfectly elastic firm's demand, you are considered a price taker. Okay, you are a price taker. You can't set your own price, okay? If you sell too expensive, nobody buy from you. If you sell, you won't be able to sell cheaper because the market, as you will see in later on in this chapter, since it's very competitive, everyone already cut price. You won't be able to sell lower than $6 either. You will face a loss, okay? So basically, you forced to sell at $6, which make you a price taker. Take what price? Take the market price, okay? Take the market price. And if for any reason at all, if there's disruption in the market, for example, there are more people entering the market, and then the market price change, the firm's demand also change, okay? The firm's demand also change. So yes, you are a price taker at the market price. If the market price change, your demand change. Okay. for economists, now that we understand the demand, we understand the cost, we need to model firm decision, okay? And I'm gonna say that firms, we're gonna model it in a way that we assume that firm thinks at the margin. So basically the firm will do marginal analysis, okay? So basically, this is how a firm make decision. So the goal is to select Q star, right? The optimal level of output to maximize profit, okay? To maximize profit. So in doing that, the method the firm used marginal analysis. So marginal cost, marginal benefit analysis. Marginal cost, marginal benefit analysis. So as we say that in maximizing profit, if profit equals to total revenue minus total cost, right? So the marginal cost of producing one more unit of output would just be the marginal cost from there, okay? And the marginal benefit of producing one more unit of output would just be the marginal revenue, okay? So basically the analysis go like when we do marginal cost, marginal benefit analysis, it go like this. So the firm start its business, okay? When we model something, the decision that we would like to model is the number of output, right? So the number of output should be put in the x coordinate, and we're gonna do marginal cost, marginal revenue analysis. So we're gonna put marginal cost and marginal revenue here, okay? And marginal analysis go like this. So right now, the firm, me, producing 0 unit of output. Should I produce one more unit of output? So marginal is like you're thinking 1 unit at a time, right? So the question is, should I produce the first unit of output? Okay? So how do you make that decision? So you have to ask yourself, what is the marginal cost or the additional cost from producing that 1 unit of output? So if I assume that my marginal cost look like this, so the shape of my marginal cost depends on my technology of production, right? So suppose it look like this, okay? I need to compare whether my marginal cost of producing the first unit of output is bigger or smaller than my marginal revenue. So what is the marginal revenue or the additional revenue for producing 1 unit of output? So let this output be my banana. And we know that the demand facing my firm is looking like this. This is the demand facing my firm, as I am a price taker, right? So basically, if each unit of banana that I sell in the market, how much money do I get? I'm a price taker. So each unit of banana that I sell, I get $6, right? So I can say that if I decide to sell my first unit of output, I will get $6 here. So this is my marginal revenue, okay? And if I produce my first unit of output, my marginal revenue here is higher than my marginal cost here. what should I do? Should I produce or not produce? If I produce the banana, I will get $6 and my cost is only 4. So basically, my marginal profit here is $2. It's positive, it's good. So I should be producing, right? And then once I'm here, I already produced my first unit of output. If I think at the margins, right? If I do marginal analysis, the next decision to make is, should I produce the second unit of output? Again, you ask yourself, like what would be the cost of producing the second unit of output? So this is the cost, okay? Still $4, suppose, okay? What would be the marginal revenue of an additional output here? The second banana is still gonna give you $6, right? Because every banana sold is just $6. So basically, I'm just gonna say that the marginal revenue for a perfectly competitive firm or the marginal revenue for a price taker is just a constant at a the market price. Okay? And again, if the marginal revenue of producing an additional unit of output is bigger than the cost, then the firm should produce. Okay? And the firm should continue increasing the quantity of output as long as marginal revenue is bigger than the marginal cost. Right? Because every unit that you produce, you get marginal profit into your pocket. Okay? So basically, as long as marginal revenue is bigger than marginal cost, you should keep increasing the queue. However, on the other hand, if suppose that this is like 5 units of output, right? And at the 6th unit of output, what happened? You will see that if you continue to produce the 6th unit of output, your cost is what? 8, higher than your revenue, which is 6. So the marginal profit here is negative 2. Should you be producing an additional unit of output if it's bad for your profit? The answer is no. You should not be producing here. Okay? So it can be said that whenever the marginal revenue is lower than the marginal cost, you should not produce, you should reduce the quantity. And as a result, it's safe to say that when you use the marginal analysis to maximize profit, okay, a firm choose the optimal level of output here, where MC, the marginal cost, equal to the marginal revenue. So that's the summary. This is a very important graph because we just use one graph to model a competitive firm's quantity decision, assuming that the firm would like to maximize profit using marginal cost, marginal benefit analysis. And this is the outcome. The firms will produce 5 units of output, where MC equals to MR. Okay? So that is already the firm's outcome. Okay, the decision has been made. 5 units of output. So as a result of the firm's decision, what do we know about the market? Okay, so this is quite important because, like, as an economist, right, you try to model how someone make decisions. You do care about the outcome that you predict. So if I am the government and I find that the outcome is bad for consumers, then maybe I should respond. But if the outcome is already good for the society, so maybe the market can be free on its own or something like that. So yes, so once you have like an outcome or a behavior, you should analyze a little what happens there, okay? So the profit maximization condition give this MC equals to MR, okay? And for a perfectly competitive market, we know that the firm is the price taker, okay? And therefore, the marginal revenue must equal to the market price, the $6. So we have MR equals to P, okay? And an additional thing to talk about is probably that if you sell banana for $6 for every unit, then it's also equal to your average revenue as well, right? Because if you sell $6 per unit for every unit, then the average price of each banana is just 6. And the average revenue that the firm get is just 6. Okay? So, yes. Because the firm is a price taker, we have P equal to MR equal to AR, like that. And because the firm maximize profit, we have MC equals to MR. So therefore, at the firm's equilibrium point, okay, the firm's equilibrium point, which is here, this is the firm equilibrium point, we have that MR equal to P equal to AR also equal to MC. Okay, also equal to MC. It should be, you should be very, very careful about this condition though, because for a competitive firm, MR always equal to P equal to AR anywhere, okay? But MC only equals to MR here at the equilibrium point, okay? So those are the conditions, and make sure that you understand this as it summarizes that, okay? And after this, we can discuss later whether or not we like the market outcome or the firm's equilibrium point. Okay, so before going into analyzing whether or not the firm's equilibrium is good or bad for the society, we should see how the firm equilibrium benefit the firm itself. So basically, we want to know if the equilibrium create positive profit or negative profit to the firm. Okay, it's all possible. So why did I say that? So suppose that given a technology, or basically given the marginal cost that the firm faces, okay, if somehow the market price is high enough, the firm, so this is given to the firm, okay, given to the firm. The firm will maximize profit by choosing to produce 5 units of output here, where MC equal to MR. What would be the total revenue that the firm get? The firm will get the total revenue of $30 because the firm will sell 5 units of output at $6, and therefore $30 revenue. What would be the cost that the firm has to pay, okay? So you need to know the average total cost. If you know the average total cost, okay, of producing 5 units of output, the total cost that the firm has to, if the average total cost of producing 5 units of output at $4, okay, then you know that the total cost is 4 times 5, which is 20. Okay, which is 20. And if you know the total revenue and total cost, you can say that the profit is simply just $10 here. Okay, the profit is just $10, the gap between the total revenue and the total cost. So you should be able to see that at the optimal level of output, the price is higher than the cost, the firm make profit. So in a perfectly competitive market, can a firm make a loss or a negative profit? What must happen for the firm to make a negative profit? It's very simple, right? As I said, the firm is a price taker. If the price is at $6, good, we have profit. If there is a market shock for any reason, there might be an article publishing that banana is bad for your health. Suppose the demand have a negative shock, the market price reduced from $6 to say like $3. What would happen, right? The firm can easily go into a negative profit. So suppose that the price, there's a negative demand shock. The price dropped from $6 to $3. If the firm would like to maximize profit, okay, please understand that maximizing profit as the same as minimizing loss, okay? So if the firm is rational, the firm should aim to produce at Q0 here, okay, where MC equals to MR, and the revenue would be the green area here, okay, P times Q. However, at Q0 unit of output, this is the average total cost. And therefore, the total cost would be the red area here. And as you can see, the firm is making a loss, okay? We observe this all the time, right? If we believe that agricultural sector, they are very close to perfectly competitive market, and the price of commodities or like agricultural products, they fluctuate all the time. When the price is high, farmers are happy. We get positive profit. But a lot of times the price drop, right? And that is nothing that they can do. They would still gonna sell at the optimal level of output. However, even at the optimal level of output here, the firm is still making a loss. Okay? If you make a profit, good for you. But if you make a loss, that is the question that you need to think. If you make a loss, should you still open your restaurant? Should you still grow banana? I mean, should you still like harvest your product and sell in the market? You probably already grow your banana. So, in other words, the question is, should you produce at Q0? Or should you shut down and not producing at all in this period because there's too much cost? Seriously, we have seen example, right? When the agricultural price dropped so hard, farmers decide to not harvest their product and let them rotten. That is shutting down, okay? I'm not gonna sell in this period. How do you answer that question? Should, given the price at $3, should you produce and make some loss or should you shut down? So keep in mind that the firm, right, will make whatever decision, every single decision to maximize profit. And therefore, this is the question to be made. Okay? So your decision is, you have two choices. Number one, produce Q0. Right? And number two, you shut down. And what it means by shut down is you produce Q equal to 0. So not producing anything at all. And if you produce Q0, what do you get? You get pi as a function of Q0, right? And if you shut down, what do you get? You get pi as a function of not producing anything. So we can call it price shutdown. What is price shutdown? Because now we want to compare, right? The firm will produce if this pi Q0 is bigger than the pi shutdown. And the firm should shut down if pi shutdown is higher. Easy, right? Because firm want to max profit, so they will choose whatever decision with a bigger profit, okay? So if the firm decide to shut down, what is the profit again? So if the firm decide to shut down, we have the total revenue, right? Minus total cost. And we said that we are in the short run decision, right? So the total cost, there are two components. Number one is the total fixed cost, and number two is the total variable cost, okay? So if you produce nothing at all in this period, what would be your total revenue? Total revenue is, I can just say like it's P times Q, right? But you choose Q equal to 0 here. So no, you're not gonna get any revenue, okay? What would be your total fixed cost? Your total fixed cost gonna be your total fixed cost because you already rent the building for your restaurant, you already have a land, you already have a lot of things that you already paid, okay? You can't cancel. So those costs, sometimes we call it already sunk. So this cost is already sunk. You may or may not open your restaurant. You already paid for the building rent, okay? So it's there. Even you produce Q equal to 0 tomorrow, you also have to pay that. If you close your restaurant, do you have to pay for your chicken? No, right? So total variable cost will be 0. So I'm just gonna say that whenever a firm is shut down, the profit is not going to be 0. The profit will equal to the negative total fixed cost that you still have to pay, okay? So if we are okay at this, if you produce Q0, you get this much profit. If you don't produce at all, if you shut down, you get the profit of negative total fixed cost, okay? So here should be your shutdown decision. I'm gonna show you the shutdown decision. So basically the firm should shut down if pi shutdown is bigger than pi at Q0, right? And we already know that pi shutdown is the negative total fixed cost, okay? It's bigger than the total revenue minus total fixed cost minus total variable cost at Q0, okay? So these are at Q0. But the definition of total fixed cost is it's fixed regardless of the quantity that you produce. So you should see that this cancel out, okay? And your shutdown decision can be transformed into you should shut down if your total revenue is lower than the total variable cost. Or in other words, my shutdown, I can divide everything by Q. Okay? And I can get the average revenue is lower than the average variable cost. And since the firm is in a perfectly competitive market, the average revenue is simply the price, right? Is lower than the AVC. So that is our shutdown decision. the firm should shut down if the market price drop lower than the firm's average variable cost. The idea is that the fixed cost is already the fixed cost is already sunk, and therefore, if you shut down, you pay the fixed cost. If you don't shut down, you pay the fixed cost. So whatever sunk should not be taken into account in decision making. And therefore, your decision rule only depends on the variable cost, the cost that not already sunk. Okay? So this is a summary. The fixed cost is sunk, should not be taken into account. And you should shut down if the market price drop lower than your average variable cost. Okay? So suppose that these are all your cost curve. Okay? So this PowerPoint slide would be the summary of everything that I just said. This is your production technology right there. Okay, and your demand will come in depending on the market price. So suppose that the market price is so high at P1. Okay, so this is your firm's demand given P1. And of course, we said many times that the firm's demand of P1 equals to the average revenue equal to the marginal revenue. And therefore, a profit maximizing firm will produce Q1 in response to P1 because that point A is where MC, marginal cost, equal to the marginal revenue. And you can also see that at Q1, P is higher than the average total cost. What does it mean? It means that the firm is making a profit. Should the firm shut down? Out of the question, right? Why would you shut down? You're making good profit. Stay. Okay? For any reason, if the market price drop to P2, what would happen to the firm? A profit maximizing firm will respond by reduce their output from Q1 to now Q2 to maximize the profit given P2. So at point B, you can also see that it is where MC equals to the new MR, right? And at this price level, you should see that the price equal to the average total cost at Q2. What does it mean? It means that the firm make zero profit, right? Because revenue is exactly the same as cost, so make zero profit. So here's the question. If the firm is making a zero profit, should the firm shut down? Come back. If the firm shut down, the firm will have to still pay total fixed cost, right? But if the firm produce, the firm will get zero. Zero is better than negative. So yes, in the short run, if the firm makes zero profit, go ahead, okay, and produce. For any reason, the price drop again to P3. So a profit maximizing firm will produce at Q3, where MC equals to the new MR here, okay? So what happened here is the price is lower than the average cost at Q3. Should you shut down? Should the firm shut down? So the answer is no, right? Why? If you shut down, you face the loss equal to the negative total fixed cost. Okay? However, if you produce although you make negative profit, the negative profit is smaller than the total fixed cost. Okay? Because if you look here, the price is higher than your average variable cost, right? The price still higher than average variable cost. price still higher than average variable cost. And therefore, if you produce, you lost, but lost less than the total fixed cost. So yes, even with this, you still should be producing until the price drop into P4. Okay, at P4, a profit maximizing firm will produce Q4. Okay, will aim to produce at Q4. But the thing is, if you produce at Q4, the price equal to the average variable cost. So it means that if you decide to produce, you make a loss equal to the total fixed cost. If you don't produce and shut down, you're still gonna be making a profit of negative total fixed cost. So at this point, the firm should be indifferent between shut down or not shut down, okay? But any price lower than this, but for any price lower than that, you would notice that if you're still producing, your loss will be bigger than the negative total fixed cost, and therefore you should not produce anymore, okay? So we say that at this point where MC equals to AVC, we call it a shutdown point, because when the price is higher than this point, the firm will produce. If the price is lower than this point, the firm will shut down. See, this is the shutdown point. P equal to AVC, where MC equal to AVC here. Okay, that is the shutdown point. So yes, this summarize firms' decisions at different price. Okay. The next step though, after you understand how competitive firms make decisions, can you derive the firm's supply curve? If you want to derive something, first visit the definition of it, right? So what is the definition of firm supply curve? So firm supply function is like the firm willingness to sell, right? Like the firm willingness to sell, like the quantity that the firm would like to sell at different prices. So how would you derive a supply curve? Easy. You keep changing the price, right? And see how firm change quantity as a result of the change in price. And if you can get the relationship between the price and the quantity that the firm would like to sell, that relationship is simply the supply. So basically, it's that, right? Because when the price is high at P1, the firm produce Q1. The price is at P2, the firm produce Q2. The P3, the firm produce Q3. So basically, the fact that the firm's always gonna produce where MC equals to MR, making the marginal cost curve above the shutdown point is the firm supply curve. Under the shutdown point, the firm would just supply 0 unit of output, okay? So that is it. That is the firm's short run supply curve. Okay, so once we finish the firm short run decision, we can discuss about the firm's long run decision, okay? And keep in mind that the only difference between the firm short run and long run decisions are that in the long run there is no more fixed cost, okay? All the costs, the long run is a period of time that is long enough for firms to vary the quantity of all its inputs, and therefore all the costs are variable costs, not fixed. And in the long run, the problem becomes like easier. You know, like in the short run, the firm have to decide whether to shut down or produce, and if produce, how much, right? But in the long run, the firm only, if the firm are making a loss in the long run, there is no fixed cost, right? If you're making a loss in the long run, listen to that. You should just leave the market, okay? You should just leave the market. So the firm exit condition is so easy. If you make a loss, if you make a negative profit, go, okay? So exit condition would just be that when the price drop lower than the average total cost, or you making a negative profit. And you would be, that would also be more firm entering the market if people make positive profit. Keep in mind, if you still can remember, in the one condition of a perfectly competitive market is that there must be free entry, free exit conditions, right? So that there can be many firms in the market. The question is, do we have free entry, free exit condition in the short run? No, right? Because in the short run, there are fixed input that firms cannot acquire. But in the long run, you can acquire any inputs that you want, so you can come in and go out of the market, okay? So basically, if you make a loss, please feel free to leave the market, to exit the market. But if you can see that a lot of people are making money selling banana, and anyone can sell banana in Thailand, okay? Can grow banana in Thailand, it's easy. So if it makes so much money, what would happen? I would want to sell banana too, right? So if that's the case, whenever we see a positive profit in a perfectly competitive market with free entry condition, we would see that people would come in and invest more. Let me first. So we just finished the firm's short run decision, okay? And now we're gonna continue to the firm's long run decisions. And the difference between the firm short run and long run decisions is that in the short run, the firm has fixed input or fixed cost, and in the long run, it is the period of time that is long enough for firm to vary its quantity of inputs, and therefore it can be said that in the long run, the firms only have variable inputs or only have variable costs, no fixed costs, okay? So that simplifies things a lot. So this is firm production technology. So the firm is facing this marginal cost and average total cost. There is no such thing as average fixed cost or average variable cost anymore, because everything is just like variable cost, right? In other words, you can think of average total cost as also the average variable cost. The firm's decisions still gonna be made to maximize profit, right? So the key to maximizing profit is that the firm have to always pick Q where MC equals to MR. So suppose that the market price in the long run is at P1, okay? So this is the firm's MR. Therefore, the firm would produce this much unit of output, okay? If the price change, of course, the firm's always gonna change as well, okay? And essentially, if the price keep dropping below the average total cost, it would mean that the firm will make a loss, okay? And think about it, you no longer have any fixed input. You only have variable inputs. If you make a negative profit or a loss in the long run, would you stay in the market or would you exit? right? If you know that you're gonna be making a loss in the long run, think about it. Nobody gonna stay, okay? So basically, if the price in this industry or in this market drop below this point, the firm will just leave. Okay. In other words, we can draw the firm's long run demand supply curve like this. Okay. So this is the firm's long run supply curve. It would just be on the firm's MC above the exit point, or basically above the average total cost. So this is a summary, okay? This is the firm's short run supply curve is the MC above the AVC, and the long run supply curve is the MC above the ATC. And this is the summary of the firm exit decision. So if you still can remember from the beginning of this chapter, we say that one of a condition for a market to be perfectly competitive market is that the market must have free entry and free exit, okay? So in the short run, do we have, what does it mean by free entry and free exit condition? So free entry means that anyone can just come in and compete in this market, and free exit means that anyone can just leave, okay? It should be emphasized that these conditions are very important, but it doesn't work in the short run. Why? Why are the free entry, free exit condition is only valid in the long run? Because in the short run, there are fixed inputs, right? So it's like even if you see your neighbor growing banana and make so much profit, you want to enter the market, but in the short run, you cannot find land. You cannot find fertilizer, you cannot find banana or whatever. So you can't enter in the short run because it's not enough time for you to gain all the input. But in the long run, yes, okay, you can enter. There is no barrier. And of course, in the short run, you can't exit because you still have your fixed input. But in the long run, yes, you can. Anyone can exit. And the condition for the exit is very simple, okay? So basically, all the firm can exit if your long run profit is less than 0, okay? Or like the price drop below your average total cost. The entry condition is pretty much the same, okay? So if you see your neighbor making so much money from growing something so easy as banana, at least it is very easy in Thailand, okay? So a new firm should enter the market if you observe that the long run profit is bigger than 0, okay? If you see someone profit bigger than 0, or basically the P is higher than the average total cost. So if, oh, okay, so for the long run decision, let us revisit the free entry and free exit condition a little, okay? So we say that in a perfectly competitive market, we have free entry and free exit conditions, and they are very, very important to the market outcome in the long run. But it should be noted that the free entry, free exit condition is not true in the short run. Why is that? So this condition, it doesn't hold, it doesn't exist in the short run, even for a perfectly competitive market. because the meaning of free entry is like anyone can enter the market when they want, and free exit is like any firm can exit the market when they want, right? But in the short run, we have fixed cost or fixed input. So basically, you can't find all the inputs to enter the market in the short run, and you also have fixed input that you cannot leave in the short run, so that you can't exit either. Okay, so you can only shut down and you can't enter in the short run. However, in the long run, it's a period of time that is long enough for you to gather all the inputs that you want, right? So in this PowerPoint, it explains like when should firms exit the market, right? And the condition is quite simple. So you want to exit if your profit is less than zero, or basically whenever the market price drop below the ATC. Okay. So as you see, in the long run, if you make negative profit, you don't produce, you exit. Another thing to consider is the free entry condition. Okay, a new firm should enter when. So suppose that I see my neighbor growing banana and sell banana and make so much profit. What would I do, right? I would enter because in a perfectly competitive market, it is easy to acquire all the inputs. It is easy to like build your own business just like them. Okay, so in Thailand, banana can be grown anywhere, so that's pretty easy. So yes, if I see my neighbor making so much profit, I will enter. Or basically, I will enter if I see that the market price is higher than the average total cost. So how does the free entry, free exit condition affect the market outcome in a perfectly competitive market in the long run? So think about it. So suppose that this is the market and this is your firm, right? So at the current market price P1, okay, the firm will choose to produce here where MC equals to MR, right? And the firm will gain some profit over here. What would happen when the firm gains some profit? There would be a new firm coming into the market, right? And if there are new firms coming into the market, what would happen to the market? New firms coming into the market will just increase the supply in the market, okay? And when the supply, the market supply increase, what happens is the price will drop, okay? The price will drop until there is no more profit. So there will be no more people coming into the market, okay? So basically, people will keep coming into the market until this point. If for any reason too many people come into the market and everyone face a loss, I hope that you see that the people will leave the market, exit the market until this point. Why? Because at this point, at P2 here, all the firms, okay, all the competitive firms will produce where MC equals to MR and they produce here. And if you notice, the profit must be zero. Okay, the profit must be zero. So in the end, okay, because of the free entry, free exit condition in the long run, this is the market outcome, okay, market outcome of a perfectly competitive market in the long run. The firm will, there will be free entry and free exit until the market reach P2, where the firm produced here and nobody gain any positive or negative profit. Or it can be said that the long run profit in a perfectly competitive market must be zero. Okay, must be zero. And that is the mechanism. Now, it raises a question like, would you go into a business that will give you zero profit in the long run. So basically, please keep in mind that we are in economics modeling, right? And therefore, when we model a profit, which equal to the total revenue minus total cost, the total cost here are economic costs, okay? And economic costs is include the opportunity cost. So basically, when you say that you gain zero profit here, it means that your total cost here already include the second best alternative career that you can do. Okay, so I'm going into this restaurant business, but if I am not in the restaurant business, I will be a lecturer. Okay, so suppose that if I am a lecturer, my salary is $10,000. So the $10,000 lecturer salary that I give up is included in the total cost. Okay, if that is the case, it means that even if I gain zero economic profit here, I still should have accounting profit as big as my alternative job. Okay, so keep that in mind. Total cost is economic cost, which include our opportunity cost already. Okay, so we just analyze firms' behavior in perfectly competitive market in the short run and in the long run, using a lot of graph. Okay, marginal cost, marginal revenue graph mostly. However, in this part C, we're gonna use calculus to help us do just the same thing. Okay, we will solve the same problem, which is like profit maximization problem. Given the firm profit function, how many units of output should the firm produce to maximize its profit? Okay, so in doing that, you should get the exact same answer if you do it correctly. Okay. So this is how it works. Like, you have to translate the English problem into mathematics, basically setting up profit maximization problem. So you know that what you want to do, your objective is to maximize profit, okay? And your profit equals to the total revenue minus total cost. You also have to also set up like what exactly can firm choose to maximize profit, and the answer is Q, right? So this statement reads, the firm can choose Q to maximize profit. Okay, and then you can transform the problem into P times total revenue equals to P times Q minus total cost, which is like a total cost function as a function of Q. Okay. And if you still can remember, a perfectly competitive market firms must be a price taker, right? So this P is simply the market price, and Q is the choice that the firm can make, and this is the cost function. Okay. So we're gonna assume that the profit function is well behaved, or basically this is my Q and this is a profit function. We're gonna assume that the profit function is concave like this, okay? So that if I solve for profit maximization, I will get a proper answer. So think about it this way. So suppose that this is my profit function being concave, nice looking like this. If I am the firm and I would like to pick Q star to maximize profit, okay? You can look at this graph and you already see that to maximize profit, you should be producing here, right? And the Q star, the optimal level of Q that you should pick is here, okay? So what is happening at this point where the profit is maximized? If you notice, you will see that at the maximum point here, the slope of the profit function is 0, right? So basically at this point, d pi by dq, or basically the slope, equal to 0. If you know this fact, if you know that the profit function is concave, and you would like to find Q to maximize profit, you can just find Q such that the slope is 0, okay? So in solving this exact same thing using calculus, right? You have profit function here. You can transform this profit maximization problem into what we call first order condition, okay? First order condition, which is trying to find Q star where slope is 0. So basically d pi by dq, okay, equals to, if you differentiate the total revenue with less, so you differentiate the total revenue with respect to the Q, minus you differentiate the total cost with respect to Q, and it must set to 0, okay, it must be set to 0, so that you know that the Q would be the optimal level of Q. What do you get, okay? So when you differentiate total revenue with respect to Q, you get MR. If you differentiate total cost with respect to Q, you get what we call MC, and you set into 0. So if you look at this first order condition closely, it's the condition that maximize profit, right? You will say that the firm should pick Q star such that MC equals to MR. So the condition doesn't change. The first order condition is just exactly as what we did when we do marginal, when we did the marginal analysis, right? We have this condition. And this is just the same, okay? This is just the same. So basically, when we do profit maximization problem, we essentially, and when we derive first order condition to find the optimal Q, we essentially arrive at the same condition as the graphical approach that we did. Okay, so this is the idea. To make this more clear, okay, let us do a real problem. So suppose that I tell you that the firm facing this cost function 4Q squared plus 2, okay? We are gonna try to derive the firm's demand function, and suppose that the market price is at $4. What would be the optimal level of output, and what would be the profit that the firm make? And the very important question, should the firm shut down or not shut down, okay? So the first step in doing this would be to set up a profit maximization problem. And you know that the firm can choose Q to maximize profit, which equals to the market price, right? So the price times Q minus the cost function, which we have 4Q squared plus 2 here. Okay, so this is the profit function. And we already agree that the optimal level of Q is the Q that give the 0 slope of the profit. So basically the second step would be to find the first order condition, which is d pi by dq, right? And you will get P here minus 8Q. And this is minus 2. And then when you differentiate that, you get nothing, right? And therefore, you set equal to 0. And if you solve this, you would find that the optimal level of Q, okay? The optimal level of Q equals to P divided by 8, okay? So when you have a function, the optimal level of Q, or basically the Q that the firm would like to produce as a function of P, what do we call this? This is the supply function, the firm supply function, right? So that's it for part 1. For part 2, it asks, like, suppose that P equals to 4, how many units of output will the firm produce, right? So use the supply function, right? So you know that, so what would be Q star when P equals to 4? So P equals to 4 here, and you will get 1/2. And yes, that is the answer. That is the optimal output at P equal to 4. Because this is supply is the optimal output at different P. If P equal to 4, you can just plug in and get the answer. And in step 3, it asks you to calculate the profit function. Profit is already a function of optimal Q, right? So the maximum level of profit possible equals to P times Q star minus 4Q star square plus 2, right? And then you should get P is 4, Q star is 1/2 minus 4, 1/4 minus 2, and that equal to 2 minus 3, or basically minus 1, okay? So this is the highest profit possible that you can produce, okay? So now you know, you can observe that in this example, the firm is making a negative profit, right? The question in the short run is, should the firm produce or shut down? How do I know that this is a short run problem? So if you come back to the cost function, okay, look at this cost function. What do you know from this cost function? If you notice this cost function, you can decompose the cost function into the portion that depends on Q, or in other words, this is called the total variable cost, right? And the portion that does not depend on Q, what do we call this? This is a total fixed cost, right? And the fact that it has a total fixed cost, I know that this is a short run problem. And if I know that the total fixed cost is 2, how do I make the short run shutdown decision, right? So if you still can remember, okay, you say that the firm should shut down if pi shutdown is bigger than pi produce, right? So basically, if you shut down, what do you get? Negative total fixed cost, right? And if you decide to produce, you will get -1. Or basically, the total fixed cost is 2. So basically, you should shut down if pi shutdown is bigger than pi produce, but the negative total fixed cost is -2. And if you produce, you get only -1. So basically, this condition is not true, and therefore you should not shut down. So in other words, as a result of this analysis, okay, you will see that when the price is at 4, the firm should produce 1/2 unit of output and gain -1 profit. That is the best that the firm can do.